Welcome back, students. So, what we had been discussing lately, we had been discussing about artificial intelligence, the introduction of artificial intelligence, and then we had started discussing the importance of knowledge representation for artificial intelligence. Then we have seen that there are so many issues in knowledge representation, and we had discussed those issues one by one. After discussing the issues, we have seen how we are going to represent our knowledge. So we have started discussing that how which are the different ways how knowledge can be represented, and we have discussed that there are different methods using which you can manipulate your knowledge and you can infer answers of the questions that you are going to ask to your system. So for both the purposes, for inferring new knowledge, that is answer of the question, as well as manipulating the knowledge base which is available to us, the steps that you need to perform includes, the first step is the English like statements, that is the fact which has been given to you should be first converted to appropriate predicate logic. So the first thing that you need to achieve is write it in the form of predicate logic. After writing predicate logic, there are broadly two ways how you can manipulate your knowledge base. The first is called chaining. Chaining is subdivided into two parts, forward chaining and backward chaining. In forward chaining, what you are going to do is you are going to first of all convert your facts to predicates. Then you will take certain facts as base, and supporting those facts you will try to prove whatever statement has been given to you as a goal. So you will start in top down manner, that you will be using the facts which have been given to you, and taking the supports of the fact you will try to prove whatever goal is given. While backward chaining, as we have seen few of the examples, what we are doing is we are starting from the goal which we have to prove, or from the question whose answer we have to give, and we keep on substituting the facts we know, the predicates we know for supporting it, and ultimately we will end up having the ultimate truth, that the goal which has been given to us is true because of all the facts which are supporting that particular goal. So these are the two different methods we have for chaining. Other than chaining, a very popular method for manipulation and inferring new knowledge is called resolution. Even for applying resolution, the first step is same, that the whatever facts are given, you need to convert them to predicates. After converting them to predicates, you have to convert that to conjunctive normal form, and then you have to apply the algorithm of resolution, which we will be discussing in very soon. Okay, so today we are going to continue with this same example, and one more example of timeline we are going to discuss. Again, these are the examples which I am right now discussing are very important, because in GTU question papers, these questions have been asked multiple number of times. The question may be use backward chaining, or you are supposed to use resolution. So in any case, first of all, converting it to correct predicate is very, very important. So we are going to discuss first of all this. If it is not readable, I am going to write it once again. So don't worry. So the first statement says the member of the LM St. Bridge Club are Joe, Sally, Bill and Ellen. Okay. What the statement says? The statement says the members of the LM St. Bridge Club are Joe, Sally, Bill and Ellen. Okay, so these are four persons whom we are stating over here that they are member of a particular club, and name of the club we have stated over here is St. LM Bridge Club. So how we are going to provide this information, as we discussed in last lecture, we are going to write it as basic primitive as possible. So let us this statement talks about membership fact. Joe is a member, Sally is a member, Bill is a member and Ellen is a member. So we are going to make over here four different predicates part of one. Okay, so we may write it like A says member. Okay, so first name is Joe. So Joe, comma. In place of writing the entire name ELM St. Bridge, let us write ELM only. Okay. So member Joe, comma ELM. The second membership member Sally, Sally, comma ELM. C, Bill, member Bill, comma ELM. And D, member Ellen, Ellen, comma ELM. Simple. So these are four sub predicates that you have created out of this particular statement. Now let us quickly write down the second one. The second statement says Joe is married to Sally. Joe is married to Sally. So we are going to write down the equivalent predicate for the same. Joe is married to Sally. So what is general like information here? Married. So we are going to create the predicate over here, married, which will have Joe and Sally as arguments. Okay. The third is Bill is Alan's brother. So Bill is Alan's brother. So here which is generalized information? Brother. So we are going to write it like brother Bill, comma Alan. Simple. Okay. The fourth one is the spouse of every married person in the club is also in the club. Read it again. The spouse of every married person in the club is also in the club, means also member. What I am trying to say is, if Joe and Sally both are married, and if Joe is only a member of the club, then automatically Sally will also become a member of the club. So it says the spouse of every married person in the club is also in the club. So how we are going to write this? So we are talking about spouses. So we are going to take two argument variables for all x, for all y. And what we are going to say over here, that if x and y are married, means married x comma y, and x, who is the first person when we are talking about married, is member of ELM club. Member x comma ELM. I repeat, married x comma y and member x comma ELM and spouse y comma x. X is married to y. Inherently we can say y is spouse of x. So if x is married to y and x is member of ELM and y is spouse of x, it implies y is also going to be member. So member y comma ELM. Simple. See, are you getting this? Okay. Let us move ahead to the next one, that is fifth one. Fifth one says the last meeting of the club was at Joe's house. Okay, so we will create the last meeting of the club was at Joe's house. Okay, so here what important information we are conveying? The last meeting was at some house, a specific house, and that house is owned by Joe. So there are two predicates which we are going to use. One for last meeting. So last meeting of which club? ELM club. Which place? Let us say the name of the house is house. We identify houses by number, like house number 13 or house number 50. But here let us assume that house is name of the house. So last meeting of ELM club was at house. Okay, and that house was owned by him. Okay, so we have to create who is owner of house. So own house. Who is owning house? Joe's house. So Joe is owning this particular house. So house. Are you getting this? Own house will have two arguments. Name of the person who is owning house and which specific house it is owning. So let us assume house name is name of that specific house. Okay. Now let us move ahead. Is it enough? See, there are certain facts which are inherent for us humans, but that is not for computer. What kind of such facts we have over here? For example, married and spouse. Okay, we know that if I make a statement like X and Y are married, then Y is spouse of X, right? But that you have to even write down as a fact. So additionally, we are going to add the sixth fact that for all X, for all Y, when we say married X comma Y, it implies spouse Y comma X. Similarly, this is A. Similarly, we have to make a statement like for all X, for all Y, if spouse X comma Y, it implies married Y comma X. Are you getting this? If X is married to Y, then we can say Y is spouse of X. Similarly, if X is spouse of Y, then we can say Y is married to X. So this we have to say. The another fact that we have to add is if X and Y both are married, then both are going to share the same house. Both are going to live in the same house. So what we are going to write over here? For all X, for all Y, married X comma Y, and X owns the house. The house is owned by X. So own house X comma house, any house. Let us say house is the name of a variable. So this specific house is owned by X who is married to Y. That implies, what it implies? That this house belongs to Y also. Are you getting what I am trying to say over here? That X and Y both are married and X is owning a specific house, then Y is also owner of that house. So it implies own house Y comma house. That is also true. Simple. Are you getting this? So see, these are the things which are inherent and which as a human we can perceive easily, but computer cannot, and hence we have to explicitly write this. Now what we are going to prove over here? Okay, let me write down the statement which we are going to prove here. The thing which we have to prove over here is the last meeting of club was at Sally's house. So what we are going to prove over here? The last meeting of the club was at Sally's house. How we are going to write it? In the form of predicate. Last meeting of ELM club was at some specific house and that house was owned by Sally. Sally comma house. Simple. So this is the fact which we are going to prove. Are you getting this? This is the fact which we are going to prove over here. So how we are going to prove this? That we have to see. Last meeting of ELM club, okay, is at Sally's house, was at Sally's house. That is what we are going to prove over here. Okay. Own house, sorry, this is own house. Okay, the predicate's name is own house, not own. Okay, now what we are going to use over here? So what we are going to do, either search for last meeting or search for own house. If we find it anywhere, then we can use it. So see, own house, Y comma house is available over here at fact number 7. So if we use it and we substitute by this married and own house, so what will happen over here if I substitute? Why I am substituting by 7? Because see, we know we have the fact about Joe, that last meeting of the club was at Joe's house. So we have to relate Sally with the Joe. Okay, so if we use this is Y is going to be Sally and X is going to be Joe. So I am smartly using the fact number 7 over here. So last meeting predicate remains as it is. Okay, so last meet ELM comma house, and then I am going to substitute own Sally comma house, own Sally comma house by this, married X comma Y. So married, now see over here Sally, the value of Y is Sally. We are not aware of value of X. X we don't know. What is value of X? We are not aware, but value of Y is clear. So married X comma Sally, and married X comma Sally, and own house X comma house. So what I have done, simply whatever we have available, this right hand side of the 7 I have replaced by the entire left hand side. So that is what we have over here, married X comma Sally, own house X comma house. So X is remaining as it is and Y is replaced by Sally. That is what we have done over here. Now we have to search for the possible things what we have over here. So we can first of all search for married fact over here. Okay, so if we see so that we can identify the value of X. So if we search for married, then we will identify in second we have the fact available, married Joe comma Sally. So if we use 2 over here, then the value of X is going to be Joe. Are you getting this? So everywhere I am going to replace X by Joe. So what I am going to have over here, last meeting of ELM club was at house and married, okay, Joe comma Sally, okay, and own house Joe comma Sally. So here in this, getting the support of second, this one is true. So as this is true, we are going to eliminate it, because married Joe comma Sally as per 2 is already truth. So we will eliminate it. So what is remaining? This and this. So last meeting of ELM club was at house and that house was owned by Joe. Oh sorry, here it is house. Okay, I'm sorry. It was owned by Joe. Okay. Now if you search for this, last meeting was at Joe's house, ELM was at house, and see fifth one, last meet ELM house, last meet ELM house and own house. So this is exactly same as the fifth fact. This is exactly same as the fifth one. Match them. Last meet ELM house and own house Joe comma house. So if we support this by 5, it is truth. And hence we can say that the last meeting of ELM club was at Sally's house, and that is truth. So this is how we are applying backward chaining. Is this clear to everyone? So what is the first step for applying backward chaining? We have to first of all convert the facts to equivalent predicates, and then we are going to apply backward chaining. So these are the few examples which have been repeatedly asked in GTU question papers. Now we are going to solve one more solved example from the book. Okay, and this example is talking about adding time frame to your questions. Means if you have to assert a kind of time frame to your knowledge base, like you want to say that Marcus was born in this year, Pluto died in this year. So how you are going to assert those kind of information is what we are going to discuss now. Okay, so let us see with example. We will be picking up one by one statements. Few will be repetitive of what we have already discussed earlier in the example of Marcus, Pomperian, Roman and so on, and few will be new also. So the first statement is what we have already done, is Marcus was a man. So Marcus was a man. We already know how to write this, right? Marcus was a man. So we'll write this as man in bracket Marcus. Okay. The second statement says Marcus was a Pompeian. Marcus was a Pompeian. Okay. So here what is the generalized term we are going to use? Pompeian. So Pompeian, and here it is Marcus. Simple. Okay, fine. The third one says Marcus, see this is new, focus here, this is new. Marcus was born in 40 AD. Okay, Marcus was born in 40 AD. So what is generalized term we are going to pick up as predicate over here? Born. So I'll write it like born. Who was born? Marcus. Okay, and in place of writing AD I will just write 40, assuming that by default we are going to take AD only. Fine, so Marcus was born in 40 AD. The fourth statement says all men are mortal. Okay, now see, do you see generalization over here? We are talking about all men. So what operator we are going to use? For all x. So if x is man, it implies x is mortal. Are you getting this? All men are mortal. So if x is men, it implies x is mortal also. The next statement says all Pompeians died when volcano erupted in 79 AD. All Pompeians died when volcano erupted in 79 AD. So here we are talking about all Pompeians. So first of all I'll take for all x. Okay, we are talking about all Pompeians. So Pompeians x, Pompeian x, it should not be s, Pompeian x, and volcano erupted. When volcano erupted, then they died. Okay, and volcano erupted is associated with a year, that is 79 AD. So what process we are talking about? Erupted. So erupted volcano, and I will just write 79. I won't write AD. Okay, so 79. Okay, so Pompeian X and erupted volcano 79. It implies, what it is going to imply is that X will be died. X will have been died. So died X comma 79. So what we are saying over here? All Pompeians died when volcano erupted in 79 AD. So for all X, Pompeian X and erupted volcano in 79, it implies died. All the Pompeians died in 79. Simple. Are you getting this? Okay, let us move ahead. The sixth one. What the sixth one says over here? The sixth one says no mortal lives longer than 150 years. No mortal lives longer than 150 years. So see, here what we are talking about, first of all, no mortal means we are making a generalized statement about all mortals. So for all X for it, okay. Now the second thing is lives longer than 150 years. How we can make a statement like lives longer or shorter? For that we have to take two variables, T1 and T2. Why? Because then only we can say the person was born in T1 and died in T2, and the difference between T1 and T2 was less than 150 years. Are you getting what I am trying to say? Okay. So for all X, for all T1, for all T2. Okay. For all X, for all T1, for all T2, mortal X, okay, and mortal X, and X was born X comma T1, X comma T1. We know that X was born at the time of T1, and we don't know about when X died, but we know that there had been some time interval T2, and we write it like greater than, okay, GT means greater than over here, than T2 minus T1. If T2 minus T1 means any year T2 and the birth year, if the difference is greater than 150, then what we can comment over here, that at particular year T2, X must have been dead. Are you getting what I am trying to say? I'll give example so it will be more clear. What I am trying to say over here is, a person, no mortal lives longer than 150 years. So we are talking about T1 as a birth year and T2 as some random year where we are checking X is alive or not. So mortal X and born X comma T1. In T1 year X was born. Now we are checking whether in some T2 year X was alive or not. Then we will check what is the difference between T2 minus T1. If the difference is greater than 150, it means no mortal is going to live more than 150. So if the difference is greater than 150, then already at T2 time X should be died. So dead X comma T2. Okay, fine. Now there are certain more facts that we have to add which are inherent, and one of them is alive means not dead. Alive means not dead. Means again we have to say that if X is alive means X is not dead. So it will be written in two way. For all X, for all T, alive X comma T. If X is alive at T time, it implies not dead X at T time. Are you getting this? Similarly, this can be written as not dead X at T time. Again, for all X, for all T, not dead X at T time, it implies alive X at T time. Are you getting this? Now one more thing that we need to add over here is, let us say that a person died in 1990 year, and if I'll ask you that whether that person was dead in 2010, yes, because after 1990 for any year that person should be considered as dead. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? After the date of death for any year, that person should be considered as dead person. So that is what computer is not going to understand. You have to explicitly say. So if someone dies, then he is dead at all later times. If someone dies, then he is dead at all later times. Means once again we are talking about for all X, for all T1 and for all T2. T1 is the time when the person is dead, and T2 is the time when we are checking that the person should be continuing being dead. Okay, so what we are going to write over here, died X comma T1, and if the difference between means T2 is greater than T1, means we are talking about some year T2 which is after T1, just like 1990 and 2010. So 2010 is greater than 1990, right? So died X in 1990 and 2010 is greater than 1990, then we can make a comment that the person X is dead in T2 also. Even in 2010 that person should be considered as dead. Okay, so these two things are the inherent things that we have added over here. Now we are going to prove something out of this. So what we are going to prove over here, let us quickly see, it's very interesting. What we are going to prove over here, we are going to prove over here that is Marcus alive now? Okay, now before that we have missed one of the fact. This is let us say ninth fact, and that is it is now 1991. So how we are going to write this? So now is the variable and the value is 1991. So we can write it like now is equal to 1991. So wherever you have the word now, that should be replaced by the value 1991. Now let us quickly solve the example, and the question says, is Marcus alive now is Marcus. Is Marcus alive now? Is Marcus alive? So how we are going to solve this? Okay. Is Marcus alive now? So see, from the facts it is apparent that Marcus is not alive. Marcus is not alive because Marcus is Pompeian and all Pompeian died in 79. So instead of proving Marcus is alive, we will try to prove not alive. So not alive Marcus. When? What time? Now. Okay. Fine. Now what we are going to do over here? So what we are going to do? We are going to search for not alive over here. So we can identify not alive. Yes, it is available over here. That, okay, sorry, this is dead and not alive. It should be dead and not alive. For if X is dead, then X is not alive. So if we replace this, then if we use over here 7b, then it means that dead X comma T implies not alive X comma T. So replacing not alive by dead. So this is equivalent to dead X comma X means the value of X is now Marcus. So Marcus comma now. Okay. Now what we are going to do? We are going to search for dead. We are going to search for dead now. Okay. So okay. Yes, we got it over here. Dead in eighth one. So if we use it, if we replace it by dead X comma T2 by this, then what we are going to get over here is replaced by the left hand side. So died Marcus comma T1 and greater than, okay, so we are talking about this T2 is already available, which is now. So now comma T1. Fine. Now why we have choose this? We have choose this because we already know that Marcus was dead at some particular time and we can use that particular predicate. So that X comma T2 is replaced by the left hand side. So now we have died Marcus comma T1 and greater than now comma T1. Okay. So we are going to search moreover ahead that how we are going to get this. So moving ahead with this. Okay. So we will go over here and we will search that died. Yes, died. So here we have died available, which we can take from here. So this died should be replaced by this one. Okay. So Pompeian. Okay. So this died should be replaced by the volcano erupted and all the Pompeians died. So this died. Okay. So died 79 is something like Pompeian X and erupted volcano in 79. Okay. And okay, fine. Pompeian, oh sorry, this value of X is Marcus. I am extremely sorry. Value of X is Marcus. Now see, died Marcus T1. So the value of T1 over here which we have replaced is 79. The value of T1 that we have replaced over here is 79. Which particular clause we have used here? Fifth one. So if we use the fifth one, what will happen? Died X comma 79. So X is Marcus and T1 is 79. X is Marcus and T1 is 79. So Pompeian, Marcus and erupted volcano in 79. And now this is greater than now comma 79. Okay, you are getting this? Fine. Now see, Pompeian Marcus, that is available directly as the fact number 2. If you use fact number 2, this is true. So what is remaining? Erupted volcano in 79 and greater than now comma 79. Now erupted volcano is also truth. This is truth. Okay, which is already available as a fact that volcano erupted. There is no variable available. It is a fact given. that volcano erupted in 79. So we can consider this as truth. And greater than now comma 79, if we use 9 over here, then now is equal to 1991. So ultimately what we have over here, greater than 1991 comma 79, which is mathematically true. So what we have proved over here, Marcus is not alive in 1991, that is now. So Marcus is not alive, that is what we have proved over here. So this is how we are going to apply backward chaining, and these are few of the examples which have been asked many a times in GTU paper. In coming lecture we are going to discuss about resolution. For applying resolution, we'll have to discuss how we are going to convert the predicates to conjunctive normal form. Once again, the practice of converting predicates to conjunctive normal form is very important. So you must focus properly on it, and you must practice it properly as well. Whatever examples we have solved in our lecture in the video, you have to solve those examples in your class note as well. Also, I am going to share few of the assignment examples, solve that also for the practice purpose. So that's all for today's lecture. Stay healthy and happy. Thank you.